Before we dive into today's episode, I just wanted to give a quick heads up. There are a few moments where my voice becomes a little warped or distorted, and it can be a bit hard to hear. It only lasts for a minute or two at a time, and I've added subtitles on YouTube so that you can follow along easily. The conversation was just too good to cut, so thank you for bearing with me, and I promise if you stick through, it is all well worth it. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this week's episode of Tales of Tigrosa. I am your host, Sydney Foltz, coming at you from the Sacred Valley of Peru. And today I am joined by my divine brother, Greg Moran, who I consider an ally and divine brother of the rose. And today we are going to be diving into the oh so magical, profound, and juicy conversation of what it means to heal with the plants and how we can create a greater alliance-ship with the beautiful master plants that are on this planet, here to help and support the awakening and the collective healing of every being on this planet. We'll be talking everything from dietas, different master plants, our own experience healing with the plants, and ways that you can work with the plants as well. So Greg, it is so nice to have you on this podcast. For those who don't know, Greg and I met through our breathwork training with the Sacred Breath Academy. He trained a little before me, so when I went to do my in-person part of the facilitation, I got to meet him in person. And just right off the bat, I just fell in love with all that is Greg. I mean, this man is just beautiful. You're an incredible facilitator. You have so much integrity. You have such a beautiful space of presence. You're such a good listener. You're such a good friend. You're so fun. You can have, I feel like you and I just opened up this really playful energy with each other. And it's just been such a joy to be on this path with you. And I feel like this is such a beautiful time to have this conversation because I feel like our paths with the plants, especially with our shamanic studies, but also our facilitation work with holding these beautiful diets or dietas with the plants kind of opened up at the same time. And I just feel like something's happening here. And so I just felt really called to have this conversation with you because we're both just so in it right now, being those of divine service and those divine bridges to the plants. So I'm really excited to have today's conversation. And just to share a little bit about Greg and what he's up to, Greg is a ceremonial breathwork facilitator with a focus on somatic integration, sacred healing plants, and nature connection. He is a student of the sacred plants and has been using these powerful allies for healing for many years. Greg has led his own diets, dieted in the Amazon with indigenous healers, and has participated in integrative diets for extended periods of time. After his own profound healing of ulcerative colitis in a self-led 3-month cannabis oil diet, he now offers cannabis oil diets in one-on-one containers for those with chronic digestive and intestinal issues or diseases. He is currently in the process of studying tobacco shamanism and holding shamanic plant diets. He is currently in a 3-month tobacco dieta with his teacher, Jordan Mockingbird. And he'll also be supporting him in an 8-day birch dieta in New York from October 27th to November 4th. Spaces are still available if anyone is feeling the call, and we can dive into that more at the end of the podcast. So with that, Greg, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sydney. It's so good to see your face, and I'm just really excited to, just to have this conversation and to share both of our experiences and what the plants have shown us and how they've guided our path so far.
Yeah, so epic. I mean, the plants have totally changed my life in the most incredible and magical ways. I feel like they have opened up a space within myself to really step into my power and my soul's truest purpose, and to just return to this beautiful inner harmony within myself, within the earth, within the divine, within the oneness of all that is. I'd love to hear more about your journey. So you mentioned that you healed this crazy disease working with cannabis oil. Could you just share a little bit about about that? Like, how that worked and how that came about and how the cannabis oil found you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this started about 10 years ago, and at the time was very curious about spirituality and shamanism and was just reading books and stuff. And I had my own plant medicine experiences with mushrooms leading up to that, but hadn't ever really dove deep into the world of it. And about 10 years ago, my body got really sick. My digestive system completely failed, and it eventually got diagnosed as ulcerative colitis. And it just brought me to this really low quality of life where I was living with constant pain, having to go to the bathroom upwards of like 30 plus times a day, just really, really miserable. It's an awful disease. And in Western medical science, there's no known cure for this disease. It's basically you take pills and hope it doesn't get worse, and there's nothing else you can do about it. And so when I was told that by my doctors, my immediate thought was like, this is bullshit. I'm going to find a way to heal this. And that started this 3-year process of just beginning to shift everything in my life to support healing and health and well-being. So one of the first things that I did was I began to clean up my diet and eat just very clean organic foods, nothing else, like cut out all sugars, starches, everything like that. And over about a year and a half, I noticed that my body was slowly getting better. Like my bathroom trips went from 30 plus to maybe 20 times, 15 times a day. So better, but still very low quality of life. And that's when I heard a podcast talking about cannabis oil or Rick Simpson oil and just had alarm bells going off in my head. And in the podcast, he talks primarily about the fact that cannabis oil can heal cancer. But there was one sentence where he mentioned a woman in somewhere in the middle of the US who healed Crohn's disease with the cannabis oil, which is very similar to ulcerative colitis. So I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I kind of planned the entire year around it where I spent the first maybe 8, 9 months of the year just researching everything I could find about the cannabis oil, how to make it myself and do the extraction process, how it might be working with the body physiologically, which there's not a lot of information on because it is Schedule 1 federally in the US, so there's no studies that are allowed to be done with it. Um, and then basically like quit my job and devoted 3 months to this healing process. And by the end of those 3 months, the physical body was completely healed, like completely normal bowel movements, no pain, no blood. Everything was like perfect. And it just launched me on this current path that I'm on. And yeah, it's truly miraculous, like the power of cannabis when used with respect and intention for the purposes of healing. She is such a powerful plant ally. And I'll also mention that at the time I had no context for like any of the work that I do now. So trauma resolution, emotional intelligence, all these pieces were completely foreign to me. But looking back on it, I can see the wisdom that cannabis carried in its medicine, and that it focused first on healing the physical body and bringing the physical body into alignment. So within 6 weeks of the 3 months, the physical body was already working perfectly. And I was just like, holy smokes, this is a miracle. Like, this is an absolute miracle. I have no other word to describe this. And I decided to finish out the 3 months and really solidify this healing. And at that point, cannabis began to take me into the deeper psycho-emotional layers. So it began to show me the patterns, the habits, the beliefs that led to the chronic stress and the misalignment and dis-ease in the body that eventually manifested as the physical disease, and led to like a lot of trauma resolution that ultimately ended in a spiritual awakening for me where cannabis was like, you're healed now. Um, you know the power of my medicine, so use me with respect. Um, and basically, like, sent me on my way. And yeah, it's truly profound, but it took me a very long time, like many years, to integrate from that because I had no context for what was happening. So during those 3 months, like, my emotions were up, down, up, down, up, down, all over the place. As these pieces came to the surface for healing. And so after the fact, once my body was healed, once I was off the cannabis oil, it was then about a year-long process of trying to find the balance between these highs and lows, and that's where I just began to go into nature and spend hours a day just sitting in nature at the same spot, just allowing everything to settle and calm in my nervous system. That eventually led me to studying nature connection through the Wilderness Awareness School in Washington State, where they teach indigenous nature connection and tracking practices from indigenous trackers around the world that help compile this program. And that really allowed me to find my footing again, to find my foundation. And then from that point on, it eventually led to breathwork, and then breathwork eventually led into the plant medicine space and the path of plant dietas.
Oh my gosh. Epic. Well, first, I just want to take a moment to honor this incredible soul journey you've chosen for yourself. I mean, this whole initiation, I just like this is the initiation into being a medicine man or a medicine person. Like all the maestros I work with in the jungle, like they've all had some sort of initiation like this where it's like they've followed their own intuitive call. Like a certain plant has called them to heal something specifically, and they've invested that devotion of time and energy to and listening to really working with that plant, and the healing that can happen is miraculous. And so mad respect, brother. Like that is a very courageous journey you've been on, and it just speaks to the strength of your soul, and also just how connected you were already, even when you didn't even know it, to nature and to the plants, and how those contracts were already working with you um to help ignite this awakening. And I love the piece you said around devotion, like first taking the first 8, 9 months doing the research and then staying with the full 3-month protocol that you had created for yourself. Because that is one thing with the plants that I find, and especially with dieta or diet work, is that that level of devotion is the key to really awakening and accessing the full healing spectrum of plants. Because, like, here's my opinion about Western medicine is that it's all about the quick fix. Like, how can we put a Band-Aid over the symptoms so that you can go back and work your 9 to 5 and you don't have to take time off work? But most of the time, and I'm saying most of the time, because sometimes Western medicine does work and perform miracles, but most of the time, it's just taking away the symptoms, but it's not actually getting to the root cause of the problem. But yet it's like the quicker way. But when we can devote this time to the plants, whether it's you're healing something physically or spiritually or emotionally, there is just a more regenerative way of healing that can come about. And like you mentioned, like you were able to look at the patterns and the blocks and the subconscious beliefs. Like cannabis showed you everything. And because you gave yourself that time and devotion, and now you have this beautiful ally with you for life. And now you have this beautiful ally guiding you to hold these sacred spaces of working with cannabis oil to heal these digestive issues and diseases that people have. So mad respect for your path and for your medicine. And so I'd love to ask, in your experience, how do the master plants support our evolution into awakening our most authentic, empowered, and true selves? Like, how would you say that the master plants are here to connect us back to our power?
Mm, that's a good question. And I feel like one that's just continually deepening as I continue to walk this path. But maybe to say it as succinct as possible, what I've come to understand about how the plants work is that the plants are here to just teach us how to live as human beings in right relation. And that process in coming into right relation will cause you to have to confront all of the places where you are not living in right relation, all the places where you're out of alignment, where you're off center. And through the process of allowing these pieces to come up and moving through them, being with them, accepting that, yeah, this is the case right now, and then making a different choice moving forward, the plants are just able to almost like course correct, just show you where you've fallen off the path and guide you back to the path.
And what would you say living as a human being, just in general, what does human beings living in right relation to the earth look like?
Hmm. To me, it looks like walking with respect for the earth, acknowledging our place in the earth as stewards and essentially gardeners of these beautiful lands that we're on, wherever we happen to be in the world. Um, Coming together in community because we are community creatures, and as communities, like being stewards of the earth, being kind to one another, helping each other to grow, holding each other accountable when somebody falls off the path, somebody falls offline, and just being there to really support and cultivate the continued growth of everything, of all beings, whether it's plants, whether it's animals, whether it's ecosystems, whether it's family relationships, intimate relationships, and doing it from a place of deep authenticity and groundedness. So you're not over giving, you're not people pleasing, you're not surrendering or betraying parts of yourself in order to keep balance, but you're willing to almost like stand in the fire when the fire is there and help to, yeah, bring pieces together, bring connection.
Yeah, wonderful. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, it's cool because each plant has their own personality and each plant has their own mission here on earth, like specific things they can heal and help you awaken. Like seriously, each plant has their own unique set of genius. But I feel like the one common denominator between all these plants is that they always bring you back to the heart. They are here to help open up your heart and synchronize that heart, not only with the unity consciousness of all beings on this planet, but with Mother Earth. Because I always say, like, our souls chose Earth School. We chose to incarnate on Earth and live and grow and evolve from her genius. And her genius is love. It is unconditional love and forgiveness. And I think you just put it so beautifully of, yeah, how the plants can return us back to that intelligence that lives within these beautiful fleshy meat suits that we've designed, and within our surroundings. Like I always say, I always tell, the people, especially who come here to work with me, like, I'm like, just witness the earth and see what she's reflecting to you because everything she shows you is a direct reflection and a teaching and a little nugget of wisdom. Yeah, I feel like the same goes for when you diet a plant or when you work very closely with a plant, except it all kind of happens internally. Like the plants are just awakening and reflecting back to you what's present within your internal reality. And like you said, like anything that's out of the alignment of being in right relations with life and with earth, they just course correct you. They illuminate the path ahead with their own unique set of genius. So I found that really beautiful. Such a beautiful response that I couldn't resonate more with. So I want to tune into my next question. Is there a teaching, maybe from all the plants in general or a specific plant, that completely changed your life forever or gave you the most profound course correction you could have ever asked for?
Hmm. I would say cannabis in my own experience, because how I lived before I got sick was just completely like no embodiments of any of the ideals that I held in my mind of like spirituality, shamanism, nature connection, all of that. But if you actually looked at my day-to-day life, completely the opposite of that, just severely disconnected, numbing, drink like smoking a lot of cannabis to numb, drinking a lot of alcohol, eating processed garbage food, like like just so far off course. I would say as far as like the magnitude of the course correction, cannabis was definitely that. And then the plants that I've dieted since then over the last couple of years, there's been huge openings that have taken place and huge course corrections within that. But it feels like the deeper that I go on this path, the more subtle the energies get that they're working with. So with cannabis, it's like, okay, we got to like pick you up and put you over here. And now the plants that I'm dieting these last few years are almost just like it's like realigning the subtle things, which have big impacts and ripple effects in the world and in my life. But it feels much more fine tuned these days. Still big initiation processes, but happening on those deeper levels.
Yeah, it's almost like cannabis launched you into your dharma, and then when we're on the path of our dharma, especially when like I feel like this just speaks to the way you've been integrating the plants as well, because when we're able to integrate these experiences properly, there is more regenerative healing that takes place and the processes become less life-changing and more just like more of like, okay, an opening or like another level of responsibility we're stepping into, or like, okay, this pattern's like still kind of here, but boom, easy. It's actually much easier to understand and clear now. And yeah, I can say that I feel the same on my journey as well. It give my deepest gratitude to aho sacha and ayahuasca because those two plants were the ones that completely changed the giant course of my life. They picked me up from here and put me all the way over here. Since then, and since I've been doing these dietas for the last 6 years, like it's almost like I don't want to say they get easier in a way, because that's always a very, there's always something there, like a very like humbling teaching there, but it is easier to navigate and it's easier to integrate. And I think that really speaks to the importance of medicine integration, which Greg and I were also in the same somatic plant medicine integration training with the Tiratan and eye healing retreats. And really just honing in on the importance of that somatic integration and really taking the wisdom from the plants and integrating it into your life to create the change and transformation you want to see. Because the truth is, the plants are really here to, like you said, illuminate, course correct. They can go in and they can cut and clean and heal, but they're not going to change our lives for us. They can open things up energetically within ourselves and within just like the grand scheme of our energetic field and really help us anchor in those prayers. But it's up to us to be the embodiment of that prayer, to be the embodiment of that change. So often, especially here in the Sacred Valley, I just see people kind of looping, like they're becoming really dependent upon the plants. But the thing is, it's like the plants keep showing them the same thing, but they're not taking the action to go out and create the change, and really like come into that inner self responsibility to create that. So, guys, Greg is a living example of someone who integrates their medicine. Like, look at his beautiful journey.
Yeah, yeah, I love that piece too about integration because it's so important. It's, in my opinion, it's the most important piece of any of this. Like, if you're gonna do any of this work, the integration has to be like the main component. The ceremonies are great. They can show so much, they can reveal so much and open so much. But unless you're actually implementing the messages and the wisdom and the downloads that you're receiving, what's the point of them? Like, you can go to the next one, receive the same messages, have the same, like, I hesitate to call it high because I think that has kind of a negative connotation, but like the same opening transcendental experience. And I find, like you said, people just going to ceremony after ceremony after ceremony. It's almost like they're chasing the feelings of being so elevated without actually doing the things in daily life to bring that down to earth, to merge heaven and earth together.
I feel like one of the biggest teaching I've received from the plants is the plants are like, "You don't need us to feel this. You don't need us to feel this. Like, we're just an accelerated, you know, tool to help you open this up." But I feel like they've really taught me that this, as you say, this high, or I'm gonna call it just this kind of like connection to divinity, like, lives within us. It really does, and we can find it even in the simplest moments of, like, eating a juicy strawberry or, like, I find it in the moments where I just, like, dip a rose in the water and I just, like, caress my entire body with it, and I'm like, "Oh, yes, this is what I came to Earth for," you know? Like, and though they do have a very high intelligent power for us to access those levels of consciousness, we can also get there ourselves, which is why I think you and I are still so passionate about breath work, because you can have these plant medicine experiences, but do it all with working with the power of your own breath. And I feel like that's just this divine reminder of like the medicine lives within you. So if you're listening to this and you find yourself, maybe you're getting caught and kind of becoming dependent upon those plant medicine ceremonies, the invitation here is to maybe hold a prayer for yourself to find that connection, that oneness with the divine and the openness of your heart and the mindfulness of your life, like in the little things of your life. So that leads me to my next question, because this is another thing that I think both of us stand for. I wanna ask what your opinion is on what does it mean, both as a participant, both as someone who's supporting these spaces, and both as someone who's dieting and, stepping into this facilitation and shamanic work, like, how do we walk this path with integrity? How do we stay in integrity with ourselves and with the plants? I'd love to hear any nuggets
Mm,
of wisdom you have on that.
mm, yeah, that's a very deep question. Ultimately, I feel that as a facilitator, it's in the process of slowing down and connecting daily to really your prayer and your connection to the divine, which you mentioned in just now. And I love those two pieces because I feel like, especially studying tobacco shamanism, this is one of the core messages that tobacco has been teaching me, is that it's all about your internal connection to the divine that lives within you and is just reflected and mirrored all around you in the world of nature. And then the power of your prayer and what that does in my own experience is it almost like gets the little self out of the way, gets the ego out of the way and allows something bigger to work through you. Allows that expansive divine energy, God, whatever you want to call it, to use you as the instrument for healing in those spaces. And um yeah, it's beautiful. Like I feel like I'm very much in a process of deepening into that at the moment. And yeah, it's amazing because once we get out of our own way and we allow the divine to just bring us to the places, the people, the events, the ceremonies that we're meant to be in, that's when the synchronicities begin to happen. You begin to notice a lot more like just magical little blips of consciousness being like, keep going, you're on the right path, keep going. And that's really where like deep faith and trust in the divine and the wisdom of the plants and God is built, is in that space of surrender, getting out of the way, and then being that grounded, anchored presence when you're in a ceremonial space to be able to guide others through their own process of surrendering and letting go and allowing the divine to work through them.
Wow. That was put so epically. So epically, and I couldn't agree more. It's very interesting. I wanna share a little thing that came up for me recently. So I just got back from facilitating my first dieta, working with this very powerful maestro in the Amazon. Just a really beautiful connection, collaboration, teacher-student moment that's unfolding in my life right now. But there were so many times in those 2 weeks where I was like, "Oh, man, this is a big responsibility." Like, holy moly. Just feeling so humbled by the grand teachers and mastery that these plants are. With this one, we were working with ayahuasca and ahosacha as well. One thing that was really highlighted to me in this experience was like, ayahuasca was like, "Hey, you're doing great. Like, you're integrating while you're doing these things well, but like, there's room for more divine discipline in your life in terms of even just the little ways I can continue to take care of my body and my energy and really come into more of a, I don't love the word discipline, but I'm gonna say divine discipline in the sense of still tweaking and changing and stepping into more healthier habits for myself to again be a pure, cleaner vessel for the intelligence of the plants to come through and to be that bridge, to be that service, to bring people into these experiences and facilitate a safe experience for them. And I feel like this also goes with me as a participant as well in terms of receiving dietas, like going into dieta myself. Maybe this is a nice time to talk about this because dietas require a very strict protocol that not everyone is ready for. In my words, a dieta is basically a sacred time of sacrifice and devotion to completely cutting away kind of any of like the fun stuff of life, like salt, sugar, sweets, spices, tons of foods, meat, um, alcohol if you're into that, sex, sexual thoughts, self-pleasure, to be this very clean, beautiful vessel to literally merge with a plant. Like the technology of dietas is so incredible because you're creating this sacred time of devotion and sacrifice to merge with this incredible master plant that's been alive a million plus more years than us little humans have been. And when you do and follow the dieta correctly, you gain this powerful plant ally for life. And that plant ally is here guiding you every step of the way for life. And the plants just continue to work. And I really feel like because some people go like, oh, like, I don't know if I could do that. Or like, even just taking 2 weeks off of work, like, it's so much time. But it's like, I tell people, I'm like, if you're really serious about healing this and you can commit to this, the plants will gift you more than you could ever ask for. They're just incredible. Um, and I just kind of, in whatever way people are working with the plants, like my prayer is really for people to come into greater integrity with themselves and the beautiful requirements that the plants require so that you can really receive the full healing benefits of them. Because here's the thing, plants have a shadow side, right? And if you disrespect the contract that you've signed up for with that plant, like they'll get you. They'll come and get you. My maestro has a lot of stories about this of people he's seen break their dietas and kind of the very challenging lessons they've had to learn from that. And of course, it all comes from love. Like the plants are just here to give you that serious course correction of like, okay, now you have to take accountability and responsibility for where you were out of integrity with our contract and things like that. I'd love to hear your own experience in creating that devotion with the plants and staying in integrity with the plants and what you've noticed, like what how you've been able to receive the full healing effects of the plants through that devotion and that sacrifice.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that you just shared. There's so many nuggets of wisdom and gold in that. And yeah, I would say that anytime you enter into a shamanic diet with a plant, it does become a devotion portal, and it's the power of your prayer and devotion that really allows you to receive all that the plant is there to share with you. And the more prayer and devotion you go into it with and you hold throughout, like the more you honor those boundaries that are set, the more the plant is able to just give you in that stream of consciousness to open things inside of you, to awaken your heart again, and just allow you to really come into deep connection with yourself. And the way that I kind of think about it or visualize it is we're setting all of these boundaries voluntarily. It's not like we're being forced into anything, but we're setting these boundaries voluntarily as part of our prayer and devotion in order to limit or eliminate the distractions of the outside world or the distractions that the mind likes to jump to, fantasize or fill its time with. And when we do that, it allows everything else to slow down internally. We create that spaciousness and that silence inside for us to begin to move at the same pace that the plants move, because plants live on a very different time scale than we do, especially trees. If you're dieting trees,
Yeah.
like some trees have been around for 1,000+ years, and then the species of that tree has been around for tens or hundreds of millions of years. And so these plants carry very ancient, very deep teachings that require you to be in a certain nervous system state, a certain state of consciousness, to even be able to pick up on the subtle messages that they're sending and communicating. So it's just a really beautiful process, not only of nurturing and nourishing yourself and allowing everything in your own life to slow down, but in the process of that, you're receiving so much as you do slow down, as you do come into that more peaceful, still state of consciousness, for all of the energy and all of the transmissions from these wisdom keepers, these plants, to just begin to entrain into our own nervous system. I almost like am getting a visual of like the nervous system of the plant and the nervous system of the human almost like intertwining around one another, and the plants healing us. We're also giving back to the plant world because we're forming these connections and these bonds and really returning to the earth in a way that many of our ancestors and many ancient indigenous cultures around the world used to be connected in that very deep way. And it's almost like as we heal ourselves in the plant diet space, we're also bringing back the emergence of those ancient ways to build a new earth.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like you just answered 3 of my questions in that perfectly curated, beautiful statement. Um, yeah. No, I always say, like, to the women I work with, who feel like they're not advancing enough or growing enough or this thing isn't happening fast enough, and I'm like, "Would you ever rush the process of a blooming rose? No. So why would you try to expedite and rush the process of your own growth and evolution?" And I feel like this is one of the most incredible teachings that any plant and just Mother Earth itself gives us. And I like what you said about like that is the ancient way. Guys, you can't build a house in a day. Like it's a whole process. And sometimes, okay, you put this foundation up, but oh man, I messed up the plumbing. Okay, so now next time we know what not to do. And it's just like this beautiful labor of love. And just like everything on this planet is a slowing down process that really requires a lot of patience, attunement, and listening, just as those skills are really required to regeneratively receive from a dieta space. I feel like the plants are working within us to bring us back to that remembrance as humans to like slow down. Don't force creation. Let it bloom and evolve naturally and do what you need to do to tend to your own garden and to tend to the garden of your own creations. So yeah,
Mhm.
like one question I had was how do you think the plants are waking people up and coming back into this harmony in earth? And I you're welcome to comment more, but I feel like you just answered it perfectly. I don't know if there's anything else you have to add.
Yeah, maybe just to reflect what you just said, like teaching us to tend to our own inner gardens. and in that process, like, we merge with nature, we merge with Mother Earth's intelligence. Um, yeah, there's nothing else that's really coming to mind at the moment to add to that. It feels like it was encapsulated pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take a moment to just let that sink in, everyone. Like,
Mhm.
that is the way our beautiful fleshy meat suits were designed. And so for those who are listening to this, like maybe opening up an invitation to see where in your life can you just slow down a little bit. Just slow down a little bit. And look, I still give myself these reminders all the time, you know? But yeah, really just taking that time and space to be present with yourself, present with your environment, present with the earth, and present with spirit so that you can receive the answers and clarity and guidance that you're looking for to move forward on your path.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's a teaching that's like comes through pretty consistently for me. When I do find myself trying to rush something or trying to like, the ego mind likes to think that things need to happen on a certain time scale.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
something something the plans show me over and over and over again is like surrender all of that, get out of the way, and just go back into that state of deep presence where you're listening, where you're just here in the moment, feeling the breath moving through the body, maybe hearing the birds singing around you, hearing the tree or the leaves fluttering in the wind. Just
Mm.
slow down to nature's pace, and it just will open up the space that you're trying so hard to like figure out where the pieces go. It just like clears the space for you, and the path will just open up. But it does take that deep humility to realize that like you're not the one doing any of this. Like there's something so much greater that's moving all these pieces around. And the more that we can get out of our own way and allow that to move through us as well, unobstructed, like that's when things begin to really happen in my own experience. Like we can push and force and try to make things happen. And there may be periods of time where we are putting in a lot more effort or a lot more work to build something. But this mentality of like quick fix, get it all done, instant gratification that is so common in the Western culture is a big reason why the world is in such a I'll say why human society is in such a state of disconnection, both with
Yeah.
themselves and with the natural world, and why we see chronic diseases just rampant around the world, particularly in the US, why we see these ecosystem collapses and mass extinctions happening. Um, like the earth is screaming at us to slow down and like just pause the momentum of this massive machine that's just rolling through and just begin to listen to like what does my body need to feel nourished in this moment? What can I give to the land? Can I allow like the birds to become teachers? Can I allow the trees, the plants to become teachers? Can I just stop this constant search for the next thing?
Yes.
Just come back into this moment.
Oh my gosh. I really could not agree more. I feel like I have so much that I want to like comment on about what you just shared. Um But yeah, I really feel, and this was a huge part of my deconditioning of when I left the United States. And I think the plants that God specifically planted in Central South America to learn patience because y'all, I don't know if you've ever been here, they do things differently here. Like, it is not the US. Like, things are slower, things break. Like, I've been in this house for what, 3 months now, and we're still trying to figure out the hot water situation, I'm still waiting for the key to deliver for my door downstairs, like it's just like but it was and it took a while to, like, sink and tune into that, but I think it is patience is such a beautiful teaching, and I think it is one of the core teaching of the plants because it's like, everybody talks about the big quantum leap and how everyone's like, "I want a quantum leap." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you're not gonna quantum leap if you're just sprinting ahead, ignoring every single doorway and opportunity that this quantum leap is asking you to come around." But really the quantum leap happens like you mentioned, when we are still, we go within, we take that sacred pause, and we create that spaciousness in our lives, in our energetic field for the magic of God to come through and ignite that leap in a sense. Because it's like, right? Like if you leap, you don't just like leaping, you have to like almost take like I'm imagining like a what do you call it? Like the slingshot?
Mhm.
You gotta pull it back before that thing gets momentum to fly forward. Like, the slingshot's not just sprinting ahead. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I think patience is such a huge teaching, and, I can share that from my own deconditioning. One of the stories in my head was, "Well, if I'm not doing, going, then I'm not successful, then nothing's gonna be created, then nothing's gonna happen," and that took me years, and there's still little bits of residual in that living in my mind, but that took years to break free and get out of. And, what it is balance. Like you said, like we all have, moments where, yeah, we may be asked to kind of be in a more active state. But that's the seasons of life, right? It's like the season of a woman's menstrual cycle. Like, come menstruation, that's the cave time. We're staying within ourselves. We're letting the bleed happen, the ceremony happen. And then, ooh, it's springtime. Like, okay, time to plant seeds and get creative and then enjoy the season of ovulation, which is summer, harvest, receiving the bounty of that gift. And then we go into luteal phase, which is inner fall. Like, okay, we're preparing for the winter again. We're preparing for the bleed. And so I think it's all about finding balance with your inner seasons and the seasons of life. And I feel like the more you can give yourself that devotion and that time to connect with the earth and connect with the plants, the more, like you said, you can sync up to that. Like you can sync up to the plant's nervous system with that devotion and with that spaciousness.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, like you said, like, we're not always meant to be in the season of summer. There are those times where, like, the winter rest is needed, the going inwards, the slowing down. Um, yeah, and the way that you said it so beautifully with, like, the women's monthly menstrual cycles as well, it's like these cycles are constantly happening, and imagine if you tried to stay awake and just, like, work constantly and constantly be working, 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 and you never took time to go to sleep at night.
Oh
It's
my
like,
god,
how
awful, my
long would
worst
you be able
nightmare.
to last? Yeah, how long would you be able to keep that up for? 3, 4, 5 days maybe, and then collapse.
Yeah.
So, taking that time to slow down, to go inwards, to turn it off, to just be still is so necessary, and something that like, the Western world has really forgotten over this just, like, profit over anything else mentality. Um,
Yes. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
But it's like, to me, you say that and I'm like, "Oh my god, the real profit is just the remembrance of even when you feel like you have nothing, everything is around you." Like, all the
yeah,
resources and abundance and support you could ever need is, like, right here in the earth.
yeah. And just
Mm.
like, yeah, like these meditations that were coming through when I was doing a cacao diet for 2 weeks was basically all about that, where like I was living in Zanzibar at the time, um, right on the beach, and so cacao would have me go to the beach first thing in the morning and just pick one thing that I saw in my environment and just begin to meditate on that. So whether it was the fact that there were millions upon millions of grains of sand, or the waves, like the millions of waves that are just constantly flowing and moving, or the clouds just going across the sky and the millions of atoms in that, the leaves on a tree. It's just like our world is abundance manifest. And this idea of scarcity just shows how disconnected we've become from that.
I will say on my own journey, and I would actually say Wachuma was the plant that helped me with this the most. Um, a lot of the scarcity that I've healed has been with my work with Wachuma, but to really see, like the bounty and abundance that Mother Earth provides, and just tuning into that and reflecting into that has really helped me reprogram those serious, like, scarcity lack mindsets. And, as I reflect back, the more I dove into receiving that teaching and remembering that teaching and witnessing it in my everyday life and experience, the more prosperity came into my life. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. Oh, I love the plants so much, and I love this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so to shift a little bit, maybe it's already been said, but I'd love to ask you, what has been the most humbling teaching that you've received from the plants? Or any plant specifically, or just the plants in general? Like, what has really humbled you to the space of like, "Oh, okay." You know? Like that moment of, "Oh boy, I really
Yeah.
thought I knew it all."
Yeah, this is a great question. I would say probably the biggest moment of that for me was the first time that I sat with ayahuasca. And I had already been a breathwork facilitator and supporting and teacher trainings for breathwork facilitation, and sat with ayahuasca for the first time, and um, it felt like the anaconda of ayahuasca was just wrapping around my entire body, and then I would feel it occasionally just begin to squeeze. And there was like all this anxiety that would come up, all this tension in the body. And then I would take a big gasp in and realize that I wasn't breathing. And after this happened like 4, 5, 6, 7 times, ayahuasca was just like, "You're a breathwork facilitator, aren't you?" I was just like, "Oh, oh, to the gut." And humbled me like instantly, but also opened the door to like realize that like breath awareness is paramount to like any depth of presence that you want to cultivate. You need to have that presence of breath and that slowness of breath, that even when there's contractions and a lot of tension and a lot of um, anxiety and all of that, can you still take full deep breaths? Can you still remain centered in your nervous system? Or are you holding your breath and trying to like escape somewhere where,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that will just continue to build and cultivate in the body. So,
It really does, and it's interesting because in those moments where we're holding our breath, I feel like it's literally a sympathetic trauma response that's somehow stored within our body for whatever has happened in our lives, and a way to, like, complete that process and reverse it is to, yeah, just, whoo, take a breath. Inhale, what are you calling in? Exhale, what are you relaxing into, surrendering into? And,
yeah.
um I feel like you said, breath is paramount, like, even in these plant medicine journeys as well, not just cultivating presence in life, but with medicine, like, sometimes those plants, like ayahuasca or wachuma, can really take you to some serious places within where it it's like, "Oh my god," like, it may where fear may be coming up, anxiety, like in your situation came out, things like that, or you're confronting something that maybe you've never ever looked at in your life, but it's ready to be acknowledged and cleared. Um, Connecting even to just physically, like, I know myself with ayahuasca, sometimes, like, the DMT just be on hyper speed, and it's like visions, and like I feel a little, like my body's doing things, and it's like I could go into that moment of panic or paranoia. But all I have to do is take a breath, and I'm like, "Oh," and that's what allows me to really sink in and surrender to the experience. It really
Mhm.
is the key, which is why I'm so glad both of us are breathwork facilitators, because breath is life, breath is everything. I feel like the plants have given me so many humble teachings. I feel called to answer this question to be in solidarity with you. And also, like, invite my own humility into this. Um, there's been so many. Um, Yeah, I would say there's two that are coming through, and I feel called to share this one. My first dieta with Bob and Sauna was like over 3 years ago, maybe four. No, I think three. And I was really like starting to take my relationship with healing with the masculine very seriously. And I, was just kind of practicing this pattern of like not being really conscious of my sexual energy, giving a lot of my power and sovereignty away to men who couldn't hold me in my power, not really cultivating my own inner masculine presence, searching for this king energy within, men who just like weren't in there within themselves, which was serving as a reflection for me for where I wasn't there within myself. And I remember it was like my first ayahuasca ceremony in this Bogatsana Dieta. And at first, like, I was sitting on this gold lotus throne. I had like Isis and Kali and Mary Magdalene, like all the goddesses around me, and my tigers and my eagle. And I was just like, like if someone was like feeding me grapes, and I was like, yes, like this is my inner goddess queen energy. And then all of a sudden, like Bowman Sana comes in and she's like, you're not embodying this in your life. You're calling in this king, yet you're completely ignoring your own inner king and your own inner queen. And it was this really humbling lesson of like, you know, your work is sacred. Your body is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your heart is sacred. Your service is sacred. It's time for you to step up and devote to that. What are you doing throwing yourself around? What are you doing disrespecting your body and your energy like that? What are you doing choosing these people to give your energy to? Because I'm not gonna lie, like they were not like great, like they were just, in their own process as well, of, discovering their power. And it was this really humbling moment of like, oh my God, I'm like calling in this king, but I'm not in my queen. Like my kings are gonna want this energy in this person. And I felt like that was such a pivotal moment of growing up for me, of really putting those patterns to rest. And it was this moment where instead of ignoring my responsibilities and finding this masculine holding within men, I decided to go celibate and completely devote to my service and to my business in a way I never had before. And, it took a while to like sync up to that. There was a lot of healing that came from that through that devotion and like listening to that and taking the time to integrate that and move through the integration process of that. Like, everything has shifted. Like the men in my life, whether brothers or dates I go on or things like that, are just like, really in their power, really beautiful dudes. Like even if it's not an energetic match romantically, like, they're still really good dudes, who are like doing their thing and in their power. And also too, like I feel really in my power and I feel like I've created this really beautiful service and these really beautiful offerings that are anchored in that devotion and that balance of feminine and masculine energetics within facilitation and creation. And so I share that to say, yeah, there is really beautiful shifts and changes that can come about in your life when we take these humble lessons and actually integrate them into our lives.
Hmm. Yeah. And part of the beauty of plant diets is that the plants will continue to humble you over and over and over again. And each time that that happens, I feel like there's a deeper level of reverence that you come into for your relationship with the plants, with Mother Earth, with other people, but also your relationship with yourself. So like you said, like really honoring and embodying the king or the queen within and treating yourself as such. Like honoring
Mhm.
your own energy, honoring your own time, doing the things that really nourish you, like almost coming back to what we were speaking about right at the beginning of this conversation of like living in right relation, not only with the earth, but with yourself and your own
Mhm.
individual path.
Absolutely. So beautifully put. Before I ask this final question, is there anything that you would like to bring into the space?
Yeah, one piece that's coming in really strongly right now is speaking about kind of the integration of these powerful teachings. It's really fascinating because when I did my first diet where tobacco was the medium of consciousness exchange between the plant and myself, um, rather than ayahuasca, which is typically found in the jungles. Um, it was a very different experience because ayahuasca is very much like blast off into the cosmos and so many like very high downloads coming from the stars, coming from like very deep places. We're in very altered states of consciousness. One thing that I found really profound um, with the tobacco diets and using tobacco as that medium is that when you are working with tobacco in that way, you're never necessarily leaving your ordinary state of consciousness. You're doing all the things that we've spoken about where you're slowing down, you're coming into deep prayer and devotion and reverence. But when you're ingesting the tobacco, you're never leaving this normal state of consciousness. And so the downloads and things like that that come in, it's really powerful because it can be just as profound as working with ayahuasca in these plant diet spaces. But just personally, I find the integration process to be maybe smoother is the right word because we're never leaving the ordinary state of consciousness. So all of this is happening while we're in our normal state of consciousness. And that allows for just like the gradual integration to begin to happen very smoothly, very in a very grounded way. Um, yeah, and so a big part of my journey over these last couple of years has been focused around integration as the main component because I realize, especially going into breathwork facilitation and supporting others and training people and guiding hundreds of ceremonies around the world, that the integration piece felt like it was really missing both for myself and then in the clients that I was working with. And yeah, tobacco has just been this really grounding channel to keep the wisdom and all these insights pouring in, while at the same time it's really grounding your nervous system into the present moment, into yourself. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to share that piece around working with tobacco in a shamanic way, and just the power of these plants. Like you said at the beginning of this conversation, each plant has its own kind of um, its own character, its own like medicine that it brings, its own way of relating with you. Some of the plants can be quite playful. Some of them are like very strong, powerful. Some of them are very cosmic. Some of them are just very grounded. And um, with that, I would say that, uh, yeah, just the integration is a really important piece. And also, this piece around, regardless of whether you choose to work with ayahuasca, whether you choose to work with tobacco, to facilitate the connection with these different plants, realize that you are connecting with very wise elders. And in our modern world, in indigenous societies and ancient cultures, there were elders and they had a very specific role within those cultures. And that was to initiate people into each next stage of their life and to teach them the lessons that they've learned throughout their life to help them to navigate life in a way that um, is connected, is compassionate, is loving, is truthful. And in our modern world, like we're severely lacking the wisdom of the elders, at least in like the US and Europe. I think a lot of people once they reach a certain age will go into old folks' home, barely get visited by family. And all of that like library of wisdom that they've accumulated has just been lost. And so when we're going to these plants, not only do they become allies and friends on the path for life, but they're also elders that we can call upon and learn deep wisdom teachings from at any point in our life, whether we're currently in the diet or the diet's already ended. So yeah, those two pieces just really wanted to come in.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think you wrapped that up so beautifully. And it's really interesting, like I also just wanna take a moment to just thank tobacco for being a part of this conversation as well, because I know you're in mid-diet with tobacco right now, and so that is a plant that I really hope to diet one day, and yeah, there is such to me, tobacco has really taught me a lot about the divine masculine, about the sacred masculine, about what it means to hold that energy of a king, like, within myself, but both, seeing that as reflections within brothers and men in my life. And, it's really interesting because tobacco is so grounding and so wise and so smart and so, like, patient. And, it's one of the most abused plants in this world. I'd say next to marijuana. They're probably the 2 top most abused plants in this world. And it's really
Right.
interesting because you think about someone who who smokes a lot of tobacco, it's like they're unable to find that groundingness within themselves because 'cause they're so anxious and there's so much going on here that they're reaching for that and smoking like a pack a day. But it's like and it's like abusing and misusing the intelligence of this plant, not to mention too just like modern day cigarettes and how manipulated they are and how much just like chemicals are in there and all that. That's a whole other conversation. But it's like if tobacco's core teaching is groundedness and presence, yet you're smoking all these cigarettes a day and you're not finding that groundedness and presence within yourself, that's a direct indicator of like, okay, where can you cultivate that within yourself? Or like, hey, this is the work I have to do. So I'm really glad you brought that piece in and especially around integration of like, yeah, like we say, like the plants are not going to do the work for you. They will illuminate and heal and clear and awaken whatever is needed for you to then embody that and walk the path ahead and change your patterns, change your behaviors, have the challenging conversations, set the boundaries, do the things that feel edgy or uncomfortable because it's new to actually create the change you want to see. And what can really help with this is, like you said, staying grounded, staying present, listening to spirit, listening to yourself, listening to your body, listening to the environment around you. What is the earth? What are the lands that you're on telling you right now? Yeah. And also just reiterating, like, yeah, these are very ancient teachers. Like these species have been around eons longer than us silly little humans. And to wrap up this conversation, I just wanna give my gratitude and thanks to the plants for their patience with us. Like, they are so patient and loving and kind, and they are just here to teach us love and forgiveness and self-responsibility, but also self-empowerment, and I always say Mother Earth can wipe us out at any time, but she hasn't yet because she has faith in us, and the plants see our potential and our capability and our power to come back and return to this ancient wisdom within. And so, for those of you who've made it this far in this conversation, congratulations. And I I hope you are inspired to see which in the ways in your life that you can create space to embody and remember this ancient wisdom that literally lives within your flesh and bones.
Aho.
Aho.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, humans have a very special role here. We're obviously, like, very unique animals, and, yeah, we can cause great destruction, or we can be the stewards of great creation, and I feel like that's where Mother Nature, that's where Mother Earth, that's where the plants, like, they help us to return to that realization that we are here to not only return heaven to earth, but to cultivate the Garden of Eden. Like, this earth is a Garden of Eden if we look at it with those eyes. And then our role becomes, how can we steward it? How can we care for it? How can
Yeah.
we help it to thrive? I feel like that's one of the deepest essences of the teachings that I've received from, all my times dieting plants, working with plant medicines, spending countless hours in nature, isolated, alone, listening. Ultimately, it's just asking us to reconnect with our soul, our essence, and this beautiful world that we've been given.
Yeah. Oh. Just hearing you say that, like, I have so much faith in us. I have so much faith in humanity. We got this, guys. And yeah, just honoring you and this path and being just such a beautiful bridge and opening up a space for people to come into that harmony with nature and the earth through all your different offerings and all the beautiful work that you're doing. And yeah, just taking a moment to just honor the initiations that your soul has gone through and that will probably continue to go through as you elevate in this work. But yeah, I just feel you as a plant ally, as a Mama Earth ally. And yeah, I really honor your path and your work. So thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with me. I just want to open up the space and give you an opportunity to share, if there's someone here who's resonating with you or, wants to work with you and your teacher in Dietas, or just how can people find you? What are you currently offering? Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney. It's been such a pleasure to be on this show with you and to just share this wisdom and have this conversation. I feel like this could go on for hours and hours. If people want to work with me, if they want to learn more about what I do, they can find me on Instagram. My website is currently under construction, so that will be input once it's finished. And I work a lot with people both in person and online. I'm currently in Austin, Texas. So if you're in the Austin, Texas area and you want to do some work, you can always reach out to me through Instagram. I work one-on-one with people for breathwork journeys. I hold regular group breathwork journeys online. And then I am in the process of developing and finalizing a new program that's called Sacred Connections, which is focused around using some of these different modalities that we've spoken about: breath, nature connection, meditation, presence, offering, ritual, to just begin to reconnect with ourselves on a very deep level, reconnect with the earth, and really reconnect to the heart of creativity that lives within each person, and allowing that to birth your gifts, your offerings into the world. So that program will be coming out probably around the end of October, beginning of November. For anybody who's interested, you can reach out over Instagram to find out more. And then if you are wanting to dive into the world of plant diets, I'm supporting my teacher Jordan Mockingbird in an 8-day birch diet in Upper New York. And that's going to be from October 27th to November 4th. And these containers are really beautiful, really deep, really powerful. My own experience with dieting birch has been completely life-changing. All around the world in shamanic cultures in the Northern Hemisphere, the birch tree is known as the mother of the forest. And so just this really ancient, big wave of feminine energy that comes in and just heals and clears the path. So if anybody is wanting to work with birch and tobacco in that diet, you can reach out to me as well. There are still spaces available, and it would be amazing to have you in either that container or in the Sacred Connections container that will be opening around that same time as well.
Amazing. Ah, such beautiful offerings. Yeah, I have a really special connection with birch. I've never dieted birch, but um like, do I share this? I actually lost my virginity to a birch tree, but that's a whole story for another time. Surprise drop. Anyways, uh maybe I'll make that a whole podcast episode, but maybe I should diet birch too to kind of see like deeper what that was. Um
Mm.
But anyways, yeah, thank you so much. And Jordan Mockingbird, though I've never met him, I know a lot of people who work with him, and I hear really wonderful things. And Greg is wonderful as well. I promise you will be well held and well taken care of in whatever offering you decide. If you feel called to embark on. And yeah, for those who are needing help with medicine integration as well, Breath and I Greg and I are both practitioners, and we work on a somatic trauma informed level. So you can reach out to any one of us. There's my cat making an appearance for those who are watching the video. Yeah, so you can reach out to any one of us if you're looking to dive deeper into that work. And for anyone who is looking to come to Peru, and sit diets with either plants from the Amazon or come here and diet with Rose and Wachuma in the Sacred Valley. I also offer those as well. The Amazon, I'm working with a very powerful Maestro Francisco, and we're now opening up our doors to lead dietas with 1 to 3 people. And then here in the Sacred Valley, hosting private Rose and Wachuma dietas as well. And that is with my teacher Avalon, who's just amazing as well. So just know that there are plenty of opportunities for you to have these experiences. And for those who are wondering whether this is for them or not, I just invite you to take a moment and tune in and see if there is a plant that has been calling you, whether it's a tree, birch, tobacco, rose, maybe just ayahuasca or oak or something like that, to just tune in and really trust that if you're feeling that relational pull to that plant, there is probably a contract there, and there is probably something really incredible waiting for you as you merge with that spirit. So yeah, just know that the spaces are here for you when you're ready, and I trust you all. Those who are receiving the call will answer it with full faith and courage and trust.
Yay.
So with that, thank you again, Greg, so much. All the links to Greg, once will be in the description below. Yes, his website's under construction, but once it's up and ready, we'll link it below as well. And yeah, you can find everything you need in the description below. I'm wishing everyone just the most beautiful, brilliant day. And is there any final words you'd like to share with the people?
Mm. Yeah, this mantra that has been coming to me basically since Cannabis Oil, 7+ years ago, has just been Mother Nature provides everything that we need, and it all lives within the body, and that the breath is the key to unlocking all of it. And so just coming back to the breath, coming back to nature, connecting with the plants in your backyard or in a community park, any little step in that direction will begin to open doors that you didn't even know were there. So just that invitation to everybody. And thank you so much, Sydney. It's been such a pleasure to be on this show. Always amazing to chat with you, and love hearing about the work that you're doing as well. Just really honoring you on the path of the medicine holder and a dear sister on this path as well. And I really hope to be down there in Sacred Valley, Peru sometime soon to see you again and just to go on some magical adventures.
Oh, I can't wait. God, let's bring Greg to Peru. Back to Peru.
Mm.
Oh, amazing. That's such a beautiful mantra to end on. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, again, wishing everyone a really beautiful, brilliant day. May you take some time and space to just kind of integrate all of the beautiful nuggets of wisdom that have come up in today's conversation. And yes, remember your breath.